Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Interrogation Raw, and this is Conduct Unbecoming.
An international criminal is caught after 11 years on the run. Can detectives finally get her to confess to murdering her own husband?
Her belief was she just got away with murder.
But first, a young mother vanishes into the night.
Where's she at now? We've been talking for 3 minutes. He's already lied.
Investigators searching for answers in the interrogation room.
The longer this goes on, we don't find her, the worse this gets for you.
Every suspect accused of a crime has the right to remain silent. Many agree to be interrogated anyway, but they can stop the interview at any moment, making it a race against time. Justice hangs in the balance.
Since calling 911 when an emergency. So it's like a 911 when you like to call it. Report one, a missing person. It's my sister. How old is she? She's 25. And what is her name? Samira White. When's the last place you saw her? Last place I seen her was on Thursday night around 8 o'clock. We did not turn the death here.
Samira Watkins' sister reported her missing and made it very clear that it was highly unusual for her to go several days without talking to anybody.
Sometimes people just get up and leave. But that wasn't the case with her personality. Samira Watkins was a parent, and she had a job.
Samira's family said that she was a student, a hard worker, a young mother.
She was doing her best to do well for herself. She was in college. She was seeking a career in the dental field.
She was just a beautiful young girl with her future ahead of her. This wasn't a girl that would typically just go off the radar without talking to her family, without going to work, without reporting to school.
Those facts definitely gave me reason to be very concerned that this could actually be more than just a missing person.
Samira's sister said that the night Samira went missing, Samira worked a shift at her job. She went home. She changed her clothes. She let her sister know that she was going over to talk to her boyfriend, Zachary Littleton, and that she would be home later that night. She was never seen or heard from again.
So it just made sense to go ahead and talk to Zachary Littleton as quickly as possible to see whether or not Samira had actually made it to his apartment. He could very well be the last person that had seen her.
You'll have a seat here. I'll be right back, okay?
Zachary Littleton was a 24-year-old member of the United States Navy. He was stationed here in Pensacola at Pensacola Naval Air Station, and Littleton was Samira's boyfriend. The goals of this first interview were to find Samira.
Missing person, you want to resolve that as soon as you can. The longer that goes, the more unlikely it is that that's going to end well.
A secondary goal was to lock Zachary Littleton into a statement,
so that later on, should we discover evidence that's in direct confrontation with the statement that he gave earlier, maybe he'll break or change his story.
What's your phone? The God-given birth name? Zachary Antoine Littleton. What's your address? I was staying at 3500 Crane Road at the apartment, but I moved the last 2 days. Cause my wife and my daughter they'll be here in Friday, the 6th. She was stationed in Goose Creek, and I'm stationed here, so the Navy decided to put us together. So you're both in the Navy, right? Where's Goose Creek, South Carolina? So y'all finally get to be together. Cool. That's really good.
We learned Zachary Littleton was married to an enlisted Navy sailor who lived out of town and was caring for their child.
Littleton was a bit of a playboy. That's easily an indicator of somebody that's flat out a liar and who probably will lie about other things.
So the reason why you're here, we had that discussion over the phone about Sammy going missing. You know her as Sammy? Yeah. Okay. But you've had some dealings with her. You've talked to her. Yeah, she's been over to the house like maybe 4 or 5 times. Well, she doesn't keep it or whatever, but it wasn't really a relationship. It was just friends. That's what I thought it was. So you've known her for how long then? A few months. Not a whole year. It's been a few months. Did your wife know that you were talking to this girl? No. Okay. Would that be a problem if she knew that? No, because she knew I have a lot of friends. Did you have any kind of a relationship with Sandy that was more than just friends? No. I want you to know that I'm not the military. I don't have any intention of telling anybody else anything that is said in this room. I want to make that clear so that I want you to feel free to tell me everything without you worrying about getting in trouble from your wife or getting in trouble at work.
The military does not look fondly upon members committing adultery.
You can be demoted in rank, or you could actually be discharged from the military for having an adulterous relationship.
So I thought that maybe he was lying because of that. But it could also be because he's lying to avoid getting in trouble for what we're investigating.
I understand that we're looking into this case, and I really need to know the exact extent of y'all's relationship. Okay, we had sex once or twice. Okay. It wasn't every time we saw each other, because she only been over maybe, like I say, 4 or 5 times. Okay.
It certainly is a strike against him early on. I mean, we've been talking for 3 minutes at this point, and he's already lied. Most people aren't going to lie about things unless they've done something wrong.
I need you to tell me exactly when you saw her last. When it's definitely Wednesday. Wednesday, somebody dropped out. Look, why you just popping up in my house like that? I was like, you know what? You need to leave. All right, then she was getting like attacked, so I just told her, oh man, I got a daughter, so why should it? It was good while I was there, and you knew it from the gate. You knew it from the beginning that you weren't gonna be the woman in my life, and that's when I took her home. Have you seen her any time since when you dropped her off? No, I have. But definitely Wednesday. Yeah.
My first thought was maybe he had his days mixed up. Samira's sister told us that when she last saw Samira, Thursday night, Samira was leaving to go meet with Zachary Littleton at his apartment. But I really nailed that point down. Now he's actually saying, no, I didn't even see her at all on Thursday. I saw her the night before.
So we're trying to paint the person in corners and then see if they're going to give us something where we can kick the door open and confront them with the actual crime that we're investigating.
Does it strike you as odd that we're here talking about her? It strikes me because now she is, and it's pretty much messing me up. How does it mess you up? Because how is that possible? I mean, I didn't do it. Anything, I'm not responsible for her being missed. I hate it for her, but she wasn't a nice person. She wasn't no feisty type or no. She had a good tendency to be a good woman.
There was a period during the interview where Zachary Littleton would refer to Samira in the past tense. She was this, or she was that. That struck me as odd. At this point, she is missing, but she could be a number of places and be perfectly fine.
I can tell you're ready to go. Yeah, I mean, how
first interview with Littleton because I was trying to maintain the ability to have him come back for a second interview later on in the investigation. Littleton had definitely not relieved my suspicions of him,
nor did he lead me to where she was at.
and as he left, I felt like he very well could be responsible for Samira's disappearance.
Before Watkins went missing on October 29th, she told her mother she was going to her boyfriend's apartment to talk to him.
Nobody saw or heard from her after. Samira's sister, April Joseph, says Samira only knew the man for a few months. Family members say the man is a married sailor.
If we were going to find Samira alive, we really needed to find something out very soon. Even if she was just somewhere hiding, getting some kind of information could help us to find her.
We learned Samira Watkins had recently become pregnant.
Samira's family made it very clear that Littleton definitely knew she was pregnant and that the baby was his.
Her family said that Zachary Littleton was not happy about this information.
Zachary Littleton was so against her pregnancy that he encouraged her to get an abortion. On the night that Samira went missing, Samira's phone had pinged a tower right in the area of Littleton's apartment. Zachary Littleton told me in this initial interview he never saw her that night. We were beginning to see more vividly that Littleton was very likely to be responsible for whatever happened to Samira.
Alright, I'll be right back.
We decided to ramp up our approach a little bit. This interview was not as laid back as the first. We still did not know where Samira was, if she was alive, dead. We really hoped we'd get some answers.
Detective Harnett. Come on. No.
We're seeing if we couldn't get him to either add information, break completely, or to set traps for later understanding in the investigative process.
We're going to talk about what's going on, and I hope that we can maybe try and figure some stuff out. Okay. What do you think happened with her? And where is it? And where's she at now? And what do you think of? I understand that, but what do you think? What do you think? I don't know what to think. You need to. You need to. I need to. Yeah. You need to think real hard about different possibilities. What are the possibilities that you come up with in your head? I ain't even thought about it.
That's totally unnatural. Anybody in this situation who was innocent, they're going to be racking their brain thinking about what happened to this person, and now it's a matter of challenging and see if he'll come off of that story.
I need you to talk to your friend, and I'm hoping that maybe you can tell some places that we might go look based on your conversation with them. Because if we find her, we can resolve the whole issue, right? So.
And me standing up and raising my voice and projecting a little bit more, it's testing to see if they're susceptible to a person showing dominance over them.
I mean, maybe it's something having to it around. Okay. Maybe she did tell people she was going with my house. What sort of thing would possibly happen to her while she was around? A carjacking, I don't know, rape. She probably stopped went somewhere else and it made it my house. I don't know.
At this point, the main thing that concerned me was his avoidance of the pregnancy issue. He has to realize that him being the father of her unborn child puts him pretty high on the motive list, and I wanted to talk about it.
This matter of trying to present new stresses to see what he might be susceptible to in the hopes of you're breaking new information loose.
You're telling me she's pregnant, right? She said you were. At some point, she has to drop a bomb on you that she thinks is your kid. Right. I mean, that's when that happened. She never told me it was my kid. I'm not finding out for her. All right. When did she actually say? I mean, she just asked you to tell me, so I'm gonna need some help with this baby. And I'm like, well, I can't help you. You know, don't have the room in my finances. What sort of help does she ask for? I was baby, wife, and food. You know, it's just as it said, it was your baby, it's your baby. She never said that. Why would she expect you to buy the supplies then? I don't know.
So we're almost in a debate, and we're seeing if we can use the intelligent side of the debate to get him to change his mind. And it's another strategy that we'll employ to try and get someone to change their story.
I think ultimately the issue is that you just don't want to be involved in this. Yeah, it is messy. Okay, it's messy. It's not good. Okay, there's no wonderful sunshine rainbow at the end of it.
On the morning of November 3rd, some jet skiers found a large duffel bag that was washed up on shore of a waterway very close to Pensacola Naval Air Station. The bag had a foul odor coming from it. There was insect activity on and around it, and there was even blood that was seeping out of the bag. When the sheriff's office got there and they opened it up, they did find a body of a female inside of that bag, deceased.
She had no clothing on except a bra, and she was curled up in the fetal position inside of the duffel bag.
The other portion of it was that her face was taped up, which is also a behavior that someone who has a relationship with a victim will do to hide their face, almost as if to hide the shame of what took place.
A latent fingerprint examiner was able to conduct a fingerprint comparison on site, and they were able to report that indeed this was Samara Watkins. We later learned that cause of death was asphyxiation, most likely a strangulation. It completely changed the whole look of the investigation. It was now a homicide, and Littleton was our main suspect.
When we opened the bag, there's a few things that we learned. First and foremost, she was missing an earring.
When Samara went missing, we knew that she'd been wearing both earrings because we obtained the video surveillance from her employer.
Finding that second earring would be so important. If I found it in the possession of an individual, they would certainly be potentially the killer. There was also a couple of paper towels in the bag. You could clearly see that it had a distinct pattern on it. It was more or less pulled up into the driveway and just abandoned.
So we started pulling video footage from the area. We found a local restaurant where we found footage of Littleton walking in the night that she ultimately disappeared.
It puts him in the area where her car was dumped.
He made mistakes. He made big mistakes.
During that search, we found some key pieces of evidence. We did find a roll of paper towels that matched exactly the print of the paper towel found inside the bag with Samira. But the biggest thing found at Littleton's house was that matching earring, the earring we'd been looking for.
That was a direct link between the victim, the scene, and the suspect.
Any doubt that I had, which wasn't much, was now eliminated. I knew that Zachary Littleton was our killer. Littleton's arrest took place at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. It was a really good feeling to know that this was going to be a case that we did resolve, and it wouldn't be one that would be hanging out as a cold case down the line.
I believe the night Samira Watkins went missing, she drove over to Zachary Littleton's apartment. At some point while she was there, he strangled her to death. He placed her body inside of the duffel bag. He drove her to the Naval Air Station. He threw her body in the water. He thought that he had gotten away with it, but then law enforcement was so quickly in touch with him, and that's why he started telling the lies that he did. My job prosecuting the case would have been much more difficult without the two interrogations, because the jurors would not have gotten to see Zachary Littleton's cold demeanor, his lack of concern for Samira, and the fact that he was lying in both interviews.
I don't know what to think. You need to have. I need to. Yeah.
Zachary Littleton was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Justice was served.
This was such a tragic case. It involved a young mother and her unborn child, and because of that, there was this special sense of desire to do justice for them.
Carl didn't show up to work, which was not like him at all. He never missed work. So people started calling, and of course they called me. Do you know where he's at? I was like, no. One of his friends started calling around and ended up calling the police.
When the Newton Falls Police Department arrived on scene, they did not notice any signs of forced entry. Everything looked okay, and they eventually contacted Carl's parents, and they made entry to the house.
The officer that went in immediately smelled a terrible odor. The odor was, in his mind, a dead person.
And then they found my brother.
found Carl located at the bottom of the stairway, covered in a tarp and a comforter, with gunshot wounds.
How I found out was my oldest brother called me. Carl was a kind person, very patriotic, family-oriented person. Carl was in the military for roughly 25 years. He flew combat missions in Bosnia, and he flew missions over in the Middle East. And the C-130s, it's a big plane, it's kind of slow, so they're a target when they're up there, so it takes a special kind of pilot.
Everything we heard about him painted him as a good citizen, a contributing member of society, and a true victim.
From looking at the condition of the body, the estimate was he had been dead 2 or 3 days.
We discovered he had 3 gunshot wounds, 2 to the torso and 1 to the head. And the gunshot wound sustained to Carl's head was at close range.
It was obvious signs of foul play, instantly apparent. We were told that Claudia was originally from Brazil, that in the late 90s she moved to the U.S., became a naturalized U.S. citizen.
Carl met Claudia through Match.com, and he dated her for a couple months, and then for whatever reason, he decided to run off to Las Vegas to go get married. That was a little impulsive for him. 6 to 9 months into the marriage, he started expressing some concerns about being married to Claudia. He just said he wasn't happy with her and wanted to get away from her. I believe she was taking his money. That's what he believed. So he started talking to me about wanting to get divorced.
There were multiple efforts by the police and others to contact Claudia Herring. They could not connect with her.
Nobody really knew where she was, and so she was quickly a person of interest.
Investigators learned that Claudia had recently purchased a .357 Magnum at a local gun shop. We had also spoken to witnesses who told us that she had gone to a shooting range to practice shooting. Obviously, that raises some red flags.
It was very clear from the track of her phone that it was going to the Pittsburgh airport. From there, we found flight records that indicated she flew from Pittsburgh to New York, where she purchased a separate plane ticket to take her to Brazil. Within a matter of a couple months, we had Claudia located in Brazil. But based on Brazilian law and the Brazilian Constitution, they did not allow for their extradition of citizens to a foreign country, even if they're suspected of committing a crime such as homicide.
So the U.S. government, they just ran into a brick wall. Brazil just didn't want to cooperate. Claudia was just living freely, out in the open. Her belief was Brazil would never extradite her, so she just got away with murder. I was looking at a couple of hours, almost every night, corresponding with the embassy. I just really wasn't willing to give up.
That family never let go to the idea that anybody could get away with killing their son, their brother. Her case was in the late 90s. Claudia becomes an American citizen. She signs her documents taking allegiance with the United States of America and denying her loyalty to Brazil. That got us in the door. I said, I don't want her Brazilian ass, I want her American ass.
It was a huge relief to get her back. It was like a big block off my shoulders.
Out of the blue, just mid-flight, she says, "You know, a wife doesn't kill her husband without a good reason." Put those of us on the plane in a really tenuous or unique position. We don't know enough about the case to question her, but on the other hand, we have no legal obligation to make her stop talking. And she spent the next couple hours of this flight telling the story that she wanted to have heard. Although I didn't have the facts of the case, I was in the unique position of, having sat on that plane with her for so long that we had a rapport. My role was just to try to keep her comfortable, to keep her talking. If she doesn't give this statement to us in this room on the video, now it's her word against ours. I felt more pressure or stress than I have in any other case. Knowing the seriousness of the crime and the amount of effort that so many people put in for so many years, we felt like we can't screw this up.
She told these guys everything on the plane, but now that the cameras are rolling, this is what counts.
Now it's my understanding when I hear that why do you want to bring right up here? You gave these guys a statement about what happened. Yeah, partial statement. Okay, great. But I kind of want to start at the beginning. I want to go back to March 15th, 2007.
You're gonna start from the end.
Well, yeah, well, the beginning of the end. Yeah.
I start backwards. It's gonna start backwards. It's not fair.
I think, in fairness, I think what you had already talked to Tony and I about on the plane, I think that would be a very good place to start.
I feel like I'm under pressure to explain things. I didn't feel that way on the plane.
Right, and you're not going to be under any pressure. I'm not going to talk to you any differently now than we did on the airplane. But it's scary.
She viewed me as a good guy in the interview. She felt comfortable with me. So really, the only role I could play is the one I played, and that was to reassure her and to keep her talking.
I would like you to just talk about the things that you talked about with this, the things that you were already comfortable with.
This is where I started wondering, is this going to happen or isn't it? You can't force anybody to make a statement. If they ask for a lawyer, the interview's over. If they choose not to talk anymore, that's their constitutional right. Whether or not this interview takes place is solely her discretion.
I think what is important is the couple of things that you said that led up to what happened that day, because she was reading a lot of things in the news and she wants to fill in those blanks with things that weren't correct. Is that fair? Is that kind of how this thing started? Yeah. Okay.
As soon as we got married, but I didn't want to be married.
all of a sudden it was a different person. He scared the life out of me. He treated me very, very bad. He was like very aggressive. He made me, it was torture. He tortured me.
During the interview, Claudia was claiming to be a battered wife, which we found no evidence of.
What she was saying didn't match what the detectives were hearing from any of his friends, family, former girlfriends. In those cases where you have that type of abuse, there is always some type of corroboration. In her case, there was zero.
You just got to be the hardest person. Okay. You're doing really well. I think it's important. This is an important part of the story.
She needed to feel like she had somebody on her side. And it's difficult. You know the horrific thing they did, but you have to put that all aside and at least act like you're their friend. Act like you believe them because you want them to keep talking.
You really enlightened me when you're talking. I really want to hear it. I really want you to hear what you told me. I was pregnant, and he got very, very angry and went crazy. He said, I never want to be a father. I never want to have children. I want a wife. I said, but I'm 40 years old. I can't. I'm not going to get an abortion. You will get an abortion.
One of the things that I noticed right away was how rehearsed everything she said seemed to be. There were a lot of statements that she made in the interview room that were just verbatim, just word for word what she had said on the plane. Even some of her hand movements. It was like she had been practicing this story, and that struck me as really odd.
After that, things started spiraling out of control, right? Yeah. I had a plan. Doesn't want to accept this pregnancy. I'm going to kill myself. What a good. I went through firing range, right? Because I want to shoot. They had to understand about it.
I can't say that I've really been made aware ever of somebody who bought a gun or obtained a gun to commit suicide that went to the shooting range and practiced. Here's the thing from the aspect of an interview. Sometimes a lie is more powerful than the truth.
We just had to let her keep talking because the more that she does that, the worse it is for her.
So I started drinking and I had a gun. What a gun. No, you're on the right track. You're on the right track.
I was really nervous at that point.
Generally, there is only one time that person's going to sit across from us. This is basically your one chance.
So I got home and I said to him, forget it. I'm not going to have an abortion. And he grabbed me. He threw me on bed and he grabbed my throat. I just defended myself. He was very angry and I already had this plan to kill suicide. He said, that's a very good idea, but just do me a favor. Go to the basement to do that because you're going to splash my paintings. You're going to splash blood all over my paintings. I mean, basically, he just told you that his paintings are more important than you. Yeah. You're pissed. Yeah. What happened then? Well, what happened next is that I got very angry and I got real fast and shocked. Shot what? I shot that hemp and I was lying down. Come back over here, please. Please. Yeah, I was lying down. I got up real fast and I shot at him. It wasn't too far away. My plan was never, not for 1 single minute, to kill anybody but myself. To pray to God. There was not for a single minute I thought about it.
It was relief. She confessed to shooting him. Now Mike could ask the tough questions.
What happened with that? I lost the baby. You lost the baby in Brazil. Did you go to a hospital there? No, because I was afraid to give my name, be arrested, spirit like that.
We did not believe her. We were never able to find any information to substantiate Claudia's claims of being pregnant.
After you shoot, you get your wits about you and you realize what just happened. Did you ever think about calling the police?
Yes, I did, and I was. But my father said, not because of death penalty.
I guess probably the simplest question that we didn't ask. Instead of killing him, it's been easier to get a divorce.
I tried, he wouldn't let me.
And what was his story? What was his answer?
I thank you for the change. I love you. You can live with your most beautiful woman in the world. I love you. I swear I'm going to change.
I was sitting there thinking, how could anybody believe this? Right from the beginning, it felt like theatrics. I think her narcissism overshadowed her intelligence and common sense, and that when she walked out of that room, that she probably felt like a winner.
My personal belief is I think she wasn't real pleased that he had rejected her. He wanted to get divorced from her. I don't think she was used to that, and I think she was vindictive.
We, the jury in this case, duly impaneled and sworn or affirmed, find the defendant, Claudia C. Herrick, guilty of aggravated murder as she stands charged in the first count of the indictment, dated this date, signed by all 12 jurors.
Claudia was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 28 years, because that was actually one of the stipulations to the extradition.
You cannot overestimate the value of interviews and confessions. It's instrumental to our convictions. The confession brought out her lies, which were contradicted by the evidence, which in my opinion is the best kind of evidence to have.
I was relieved. I don't take cases personally at all, ever. But this case was so different that I was happy to see some closure for the Herod family.
The impact on my family was pretty big for that 11 years. Takes a lot out of you. It was a huge relief to finally get her convicted.
Tenacity pays off. Had it not been for the tenacity of the family, for the investigators involved, this case never would have come to a successful conclusion.
Justice is a journey. It doesn't end until it's done. We owed one last mission for Carl and his service to this country.